The Giants of Color Guard. Daniel Riley, Santa Clara Vanguard. TJ Beeson, Blue Devils. MXP Live.
Mais uma MXP Live, sejam todos bem-vindos. Meu nome é Cleber Melo e hoje nós teremos aqui, enfim, estamos começando a semana falando sobre os gigantes da Color Guard. Good evening, everyone. I'm Cleber Melo, and so it's a pleasure. This is one MXP Live. Welcome, everybody. Essa live está sendo transmitida pelos nossos canais do Facebook, YouTube. Curtam, compartilham e inscrevam-se em nossos canais. This live is being transmitted by our channels on YouTube and Facebook. Feel free to like, share and subscribe to our channels. Ok? Esta semana, começando a Semana dos Gigantes de Color Guard, eu tenho a honra de conversar com o Daniel Riley. We are starting the week of Giants of Color Guard. And to start, we have the honor of talking with Daniel Riley. Daniel? Are you there?
Sure.
It's loading. Oh, okay, here you are. Welcome, Daniel.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, thank you very much for joining us on this week about Color Guard.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool intro.
Daniel é uma referência. Thank you. Daniel é uma referência no mundo, né? Enfim, a gente vai falar um pouquinho sobre a história dele. Tem muita coisa legal aqui para a gente conversar. Vamos começar falando um pouquinho sobre a história dele, a carreira, o caminho que ele fez até chegar onde ele está. So, Daniel, we'd like to start knowing something about yourself. Tell us about you, how it started, and about your first works as with Color Guards, and so how everything started for you. Tell us something about that.
Yeah, actually, I was born in Arizona, in the U.S. Shortly after I was born, I moved to the Philippines and to live. My father was in the Air Force, and I lived there until I was 6 years old. So I lived on the Air Force base there, and then ended up flying back and moving back to the United States, and kind of was a military brat, moving from one state to another, and finally. My grandparents ended up taking us in, and we ended up moving into this very small town farm, where there's only one traffic signal there, and it's only a flashing yellow light. So by the time I graduated, I think there was only maybe about 500 people that went to that school. So growing up, I've always had kind of a love for music or the performing arts. I've always wanted to dance. I've always loved to sing and all that stuff. So by the time I was into high school, I've already was in doing theater and doing choir, and then I ended up being the choreographer for all the choirs in my high school by the time I was a senior in high school. And when I was in band, I started off on a clarinet. And I ended up the first year actually. I missed the first week of band camp, so they had one spot open, and they put me in as a bass clarinet. So I did that for about one season, and that was good. But I was introduced to color guard that following winter, my freshman year, and we were able to. We actually ended up going to 3 different circuits or 3 different states in one weekend where we compete for the Winter Guard. So those people that were teaching us were actually incredible instructors or performers at the time. So I was fortunate, but the small country place, we actually had these incredible performers that I had no clue about or this world, and it just drew me in. So we traveled a lot, and I got into it. So the first thing I did, first time I saw color guard, I kind of just it was this group called Escapade, and they were the top independent world group, one of the top independent world groups at the time. And the first thing I did was see all these guys throwing their rifles and all this dancing going on, and the crowd going crazy, so I was just drawn in. So I stopped playing my clarinet and decided to do color guard. So I got into that, and but I was the first chair clarinet player for for about 6 years, middle school and high school. But I don't know, just all of a sudden, actually Leon May, who's the drill designer for Carolina, for Boston at the time, or actually with Crown, and he actually was one of the first people that taught me how to spin, to do my first drop spin. So he goes, "Now you're hooked." So that's so from there I was. So I ended up actually started teaching. I got my first teaching job when I was a senior in high school, and I ended up going to right after I graduated, I ended up marching the cadets, going to the cadets and auditioning for the cadets. So within that time, I was able to meet so many people when I was in high school, and plus they taught us at the time. So I knew about the cadets and took that scary journey to drum corps,
Yeah, Daniel, let me just translate something about what you said first. Just one out of curiosity, how long have you played the clarinet before you changed to Winter Guard?
Yes, I started playing when I was in 5th grade. So it was a good 8 years of playing the clarinet.
Oh.
And I could have gone to school probably for music, but I just enjoyed being more expressive through movement.
Yeah.
Right?
Bom, então, gente, olha, começando aqui, ele falou que ele é do Arizona e o pai dele era um militar. Então, quando ele era muito novo, né, com 6 anos, o pai dele viajou foi morar nas Filipinas. E a carreira do militar, né, eles se mudam com muita frequência. Então ele se mudava bastante e passou uma parte da infância dele fazendo isso. Quando ele voltou e finalmente se assentou em um lugar, ele foi para uma cidadezinha muito pequena e que tinha 400 pessoas no máximo, assim, né, na escola, e ele sempre quis participar das artes, então ele fez dança, teatro, mas quando ele estava no sênior dele, ele começou a tocar clarinete, e aí ele começou a competir como clarinetista. Ele ficou muito bom, ele falou que era a primeira cadeira como clarinetista, então ele era muito bom. E só que assim, ele disse que a primeira vez que ele viu um grupo que chamava Escapade, ele ficou, né, maravilhado aí com o que os caras faziam, jogando rifles e tudo mais. E aí foi aí que ele decidiu, né, mudar de área, deixou o clarinete de lado e foi tocar. Mas, pelo que ele comentou, né, ele tinha ficado realmente bom, ele tocou clarinete durante 8 anos. Então, ele é bem proficiente nisso. Okay, so you abandoned the clarinet, and what happened then?
Right. So it was a lot. It was a lot. We were a small band.
But I believe that this background you have with music, with sheets and reading music and all the base you had for the time, né? You played. I believe that was fundamental to the work you developed later, no?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. You know, like I said, I've always liked the performing arts growing up. I always was dancing, always was singing. You know, I was just drawn to that. You know, I tried sports. I tried football. Didn't work out. Obviously, so you know, I was drawn to another way. And but like again, I was just so fortunate that imagine so our school was in a little farm town, and it wasn't very diverse. So there was only 2 people of color that went to that school, and that was me and my best friend. I ended up like being best friends there, and she ended up being the drum major, and I ended up being the color guard captain by the time we were seniors, which was kind of cool, you know. And we gained so much respect from everyone in the school. Within that time, though, like I said, like people like Leon May, and then on top of that, the captain of the Cavaliers was one of my rifle instructors. You know, and we had people that were marching cadets, and then I also had I actually work with him now. Andy Toth was one of my instructors when I was in high school, and he's now the designer for Santa Clara Vanguard. So I get to like all of a sudden it's been like kind of this whole full circle thing where we kind of like met and worked together a few times. Then we're here now at Santa Clara working in a different thing. So it's been really cool, you know.
Ok, né? O que ele comenta é que quando ele começou, ele tinha um color guard de 2 pessoas, que era ele e o melhor amigo dele. E que, enfim, o tempo passou, né? Cada um seguiu seu caminho, mas que no final esse amigo dele acabou sendo o drum major e ele acabou no final sendo o color guard captain, porque enfim, a gente vai falar um pouco mais sobre isso a seguir. E os instrutores deles, né, no final, todos eles acabaram se encontrando no Santa Clara. Eles passaram por vários, né, ele citou Cavaliers, Cadetes, mas que no final todos acabaram se encontrando no Santa Clara. Então é como se um círculo se fechasse. Enfim, as pessoas que fizeram parte lá do primeiro momento estavam juntas novamente agora no Santa Clara. Oh, great, man.
Yeah. So after that, actually, ended up going to ended up auditioning for the cadets at 95. I was only 15 years old. I had a spot, but my father wouldn't let me do it because I had to do, I was actually in theater at the time. It was in a play, so he wouldn't let me go. So by the time I graduated, it was in 97, I marched cadets. I took a year off because I ended up taking over a program called Northmont High School. And so I was only 20 years old getting a world-class organization, you know, and learning from there, you know, and along the way having a lot of mentors. So I got to work with April Gilligan at the time was the caption head at cadets, and she really like mentored me, pushed me, and I learned so much from her and the staff, obviously, at cadets. And by the time I aged out, she asked me, or during my age out, actually, she said, "You want to teach here next year?" And I ended up teaching the next year right away. So I got a lot of experience right away, right out the gate with the cadets. And they ended up winning a world championship that year, which was really cool. But I had to do every single day of drum corps. Like I only took 1 week off, and I did everything, you know, from getting the kids up in the morning to, you know, dance class to all the way till the end of the night. And I was actually, she also started training us to help. We actually ended up being writers. So it was myself and another age out that we ended up, she just started like pushing us to be the writers for the cadets, you know, along with Greg Lagola, which is with Blue Coats. So I was there all the way till 2001 and went to Blast.
Oh, man, a lot of things. And you were only 20 at that, no?
Yeah. That was lucky.
Então, que ele comentou, quando ele tinha 15 anos, ele entrou, né? Ele passou na audição para os cadetes, mas o pai dele não deixou ele participar porque o pai dele queria que ele fizesse outra coisa. E aí ele voltou um pouco mais tarde, né? E depois que ele fez isso, participou de uma escola de nível internacional. Ele voltou para participar, fazer o que ele realmente queria, e já durante o último ano dele lá, ele disse que uma pessoa chamada April Gallagher, que foi a mentora dele, que já começou a pressionar ele para falar, olha, ano que vem você vai dar aula aqui, né, e tal. E ele falou que, enfim, se dedicou muito, que ele dava aula todos os dias, começava de manhã e até o fim da noite, todos os dias. Então, assim, algo muito intenso e algo que novamente chama a atenção, ele tinha só 20 anos na época, então muita responsabilidade, muito foco, determinação, com uma idade muito, enfim, muito nova. Okay, so then you are now teaching.
Yeah. So I will go through the rest of it pretty quickly. I guess I ended up teaching the whole entire time, at the same time. And at that point, I was able to get my first time my high school into almost winning WGI. They were second. And from there, it was a good, they were second, only being my third year teaching there, But I decided at that point I still wanted to perform one last time, and this opportunity came up from Rosie Queen. She actually goes, I went to go see Blast, and she goes, "Are you going to ever audition?" I said, "Oh, okay, I will." And so I ended up making a tape, and within that next week, I ended up getting the last boy spot for Blast for the national tour. So that was just a whole another like, whoa, wow, and. You got to be with all these excellent performers, and it just pushed you more. And then on top of that, you got to work with so many great instructors, designers. And it was John Vanderkoff, Carl Lowe, Jim Moore. It was just like, you can't believe it. Now I'm also marching with like those people that I saw in Escapade when I first started. So it was just such an awesome learning, growing experience. And it just took yourself to another place because we are now performing in stages, like huge stages around the world, Yeah. And to do that in color guard was like, would never think that would be possible. So did that and came back and started teaching.
Uou. Então, depois que ele começou a dar aula, ele deu aula durante 3 anos, e aí ele ficou em segundo lugar no WGI lá, que, enfim, fantástico. Depois de 3 anos já conseguiu um segundo lugar. E aí surgiu uma oportunidade da Rose Queen que chamou ele para participar do Blast. Você quer participar? Não quer? Ele foi lá, fez um vídeo e pegou a última vaga que tinha para homens. E ele falou que assim, isso mudou o conceito dele, porque ele passou a trabalhar com designers, com enfim, artistas de primeiríssima linha que mudaram, enfim, trouxeram muito mais bagagem para o currículo dele. E isso realmente mudou a vida dele em termos de bagagem, de aprendizado. E isso tudo aconteceu depois que ele já estava dando aula. Então, fantástico. Whoa.
Yeah, I know. It seemed like it was a lot, but within that time, though, I ended up teaching and doing band camps and teaching so many marching bands, which that's where I started to grow as a teacher. Once I was done performing, I said I had that urge to still want to teach. Like I decided that I wanted to go teach more than I wanted to perform, and I went back to the cadets and I did that for a year. Then I did a whole bunch of bands, a bunch of marching bands, and do a lot of choreography, to band body, to designing shows. So from there, I felt like that's where I started to fall into my own. And also running my own organization. I ended up going back to Northmont for another 3 years. And then I moved down to Florida. And that's where I started. And started my own, had another couple of world-class color guards down there, where I was the independent world director, for Braddock Independent. And soon to be Scholastic World finalist, Wes Broward. So it was a lot. And within that time, and just flashes by so quickly, So,
yeah, man.
Yeah,
that's amazing. It's a short time, a lot of things happening. Just my impression. When I talk to you guys, you had such a meteorical career. You are so young, man, and you have accomplished so much. It's very inspirational, Yes, believe me. We hear these stories at such a young age. You have accomplished so much, so a lot of things, and it's amazing. Believe me. O que eu tô comentando é que, assim, no final, né, ele fez mais uma série de trabalhos e ele disse que assim, no final ele se mudou para a Flórida e voltou para o primeiro grupo, o grupo de origem dele, que é Norfolk. Mas foi depois de toda essa, né, de todo esse trabalho, de todas as conquistas que ele teve, que ele decidiu parar de né, fazer as performances e dar aula realmente, e foi aí que ele se dedicou à carreira de professor propriamente dita. E o que eu comentei foi que é muito interessante, porque né, sempre que eles comentam, é algo muito meteórico, é algo que eles, com muito pouca idade, eles né, chegam muito longe, realizam muita coisa, e eles são muito novos, realmente inspirador. É isso. Bom, so let's talk about your way of work, the way you see the function of a color guard teacher, and what your philosophy and exercise and methodology. Let's talk something about that. What do you think is essential, is important to a work when you start working with a color guard?
Yeah.
So what's essential? What do you care most when beginning a work?
As an instructor, right, just teaching, it's definitely it was good for me to start right out the gate from marching with cadets, and then teaching right away. And when I did everything, I was telling you that I was on the field with them every block pretty much, and I was doing the cleaning on the field, and just giving information, and then also working with people that had more experience. So I'm taking all that in, listening to all that, and so I took so much from those experiences from teaching there. But when I decided to leave the cadets in 2011, it was a place that was established, and they did the things a certain way for so long. But it was time for me when I went to Vanguard to separate that, and I was able to use those things plus the stuff that I've learned to start making my own way, my own thing, how I wanted to do color guard and how I wanted to teach the Vanguard, how I work with Vanguard, So a lot of it is I found out within time is definitely having that passion and having that work ethic is really more important. Sometimes it's when we're casting for groups, or we're casting for, the color guard. It's not always about the best talent to me. It's about your work ethic and how you work and your personality, and what you want to get out of it. So I take all those things into consideration, when we start to make the team, because that ends up like that whole chemistry is so important, and they can actually use each other to grow. So from there, you have to have a team of people. And with along my years of experience, I started grabbing onto these people. I had them at cadets, and for a while, and when I left, it was just me and then another technician of mine that we worked together for a while. And then slowly but surely, we started moving them back over, and we all being together for a really long time. So when I'm thinking, like, what's going to be best for the students or the performers, it's about giving them the best experience and the best teachers, or, just a wide range of different ways of people teaching, so they can grow a lot more, because they're learning from all these incredible people and their own experiences, and their strengths.
Yes. Então, o que ele comentou, né, sobre o trabalho que ele realiza, enfim, ele disse que participou de praticamente todos os grupos, né, do Drum Corps, Color Guard, enfim, e quando ele saiu dos cadetes em 2011, ele foi fazer o trabalho dele na Vanguard, ele começou, o que ele queria, né, ele tinha muita informação de todo o tempo de trabalho com o restante do pessoal, mas que ele queria fazer da forma dele. Então, ele falou, claro que tinha que manter, né, a ética de trabalho que ele tinha aprendido, mas que a paixão pelo trabalho, enfim, mas que ele queria, enfim, fazer algo novo, criar algo novo. E ele comentou que quando ele está fazendo seleção para um grupo, ou, enfim, para o próprio Color Guard, mais do que o talento que a pessoa, né, espera-se que a pessoa tenha, o que ele procura na pessoa? Ele procura personalidade, procura paixão, porque ele acha que isso é mais importante na química que ele quer, né, colocar no grupo lá, enfim, isso para o trabalho final faz mais diferença, faz mais, é mais relevante. E a conexão entre as pessoas, enfim, ele acha isso importantíssimo. E sobre a forma do trabalho, né, tudo se resume a dar ao aluno uma boa experiência, né, a prover o aluno com uma experiência que faça com que ele cresça. E falou, ele faz o trabalho pensando nisso, ele falou que isso é fundamental para o trabalho ser realizado. Oh. Let's so you told about giving a good experience to students.
Yes.
So how do you organize your work? I believe most of the groups you participate, you were in, had already a history of a color guard or performance of some kind. So how, when you arrive to a group, to a team, what is important? So where do you start working? What is the first thing you start working with these groups?
Right. Well, it's first of all, making sure that they understand why they're there for, what they're there for. And also just to push themselves to new limits, they see themselves as being those superstars, and they will if they believe it, So it's about getting their mindset right about that, and then also trying to be an athlete, like I think I have them think about, like, what does it take? We're working towards our Olympics. We need to be we need to be mentally and physically ready, So there's a lot to get into that. I do take my time with letting the choreographers. I have 3 movement choreographers, 3 to sometimes 4 choreographers, where they get to experience the different styles and also really different studies of how the body moves, and expression and performance, So those things, I feel like if you're able to understand how to control all that, then from there, you may not be able to spin a flag. You maybe have only spun flag for a year, like one of my dance instructors, and she ended up spinning because she knew how to move her body really well, So what I also find out too is, like, international students that have the language barrier, they have some of the best work ethic, and they just watch, and it's cool to see how they have their whole system. So they spend a lot of time in technique. I make sure the skill sets, that we have what we need. And within that time, I want them to start to learn how to grabbing onto details and making sure that they keep trying to catch as much as possible, and also keeping that mindset of not, I can't, you can get through it. And how are you going to get around all those obstacles, because that mind on a daily can be a lot. To deal in, the emotional things that you have to go, as like being away from home or being frustrated because you're not as good as what you think you should be at that point. It's a constant, and you have 30 to 40 of these kids or performers, going through that, and you just have to be aware of it. And that's why I think that making sure that I'm connected with them emotionally, and, just being their supporter and believing in them is so important, And then from there, my staff is able to do their thing and get them to where they need to be,
Yes. Então, o que ele comentou, ele falou, primeira coisa que ele olha, né, você tem que estar disponível mental e fisicamente, né, tem que estar preparado mental e fisicamente. E é isso que ele busca, né, a pessoa tem que saber por que está lá. Ele comentou, assim, muito interessante, a pessoa tem que ter na cabeça que ela é um artista, né, tem que estar, ela é uma estrela. E a pessoa tem que ter isso muito resolvido, porque é em função disso que a pessoa vai, né, se preparar mentalmente para realizar o trabalho que ele precisa que a pessoa realiza. Então, ele comentou que os alunos internacionais que ele tem são os mais interessantes do ponto de vista de ética de trabalho, porque a pessoa observa, aprende, repete, observa, aprende, repete. Então, é muito interessante. E aí ele começa a trabalhar as técnicas, e com o tempo ele vai trabalhando nos detalhes, né? Vai detalhando mais. Então começa com as técnicas gerais e vai detalhando o máximo possível. Que as pessoas fazem alguns exercícios, por exemplo, lançamento e pegada, né? Inúmeras vezes, né? Muitas vezes para, enfim, condicionar e treinar isso, tem que treinar a cabeça, tirar. As pessoas vão encontrar dificuldades, então tem que mudar a cabeça né, mudar o mindset lá. Eu não posso, para eu posso fazer, e essa mudança tem que ser trabalhada diariamente. Né? Ele falou que isso, trabalhado diariamente, ao longo de um tempo, faz muita diferença. E as crianças têm que tratar, né? Tratar de questões, por exemplo, estar longe de casa, sem saudade, enfim, cada um tem sua batalha individual e ele tem que perceber isso, né? Tá pronto para perceber isso num grupo de às vezes 30, 40 pessoas. E o staff lá vai tratar cada uma dessas questões de forma individual. Ok. So,
you're doing great.
Okay, so it is here. Okay, let me see. Let me check. So, okay, so about the construction of a choreography.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you start working a new show or a new? How do you construct to you know the choreography, but visually the show and so
right? Yeah. So I've been lucky to be able to have great writers. We end up hiring people to join the staff, you know. So along the years, I've made these friendships or whatever, and been able to work with a lot of those choreographers. And some of them I've also helped mentor a little bit because of my experiences of writing or whatever. It's been kind of good to have that young, fresh blood underneath that too as well. So when we get started, it usually starts off with obviously we get the information from the designers of what they're going for, right? But at the same time, like it's almost a little vague at first because as it's developing. So we create these things where we call it workshopping, right? So this is the idea, and now it's really cool because all our choreographers are also unique in their styles and the way that they approach equipment, you know. Who's ever in at that time or who we want to write for the opener, let's say, I'll let them in the gym at the end of the night and they start learning phrases and ideas and whatever. So until we get closer to getting more information, you know, as the drill is being developed and the effects are being developed, and you know, once we get that from there and we get the drill, then we start to go, all right, now we start writing to the drill. You know, and then by chance, if some of the stuff that they've learned, we can pop in there later, or it'll inspire other ideas, you know, or we really like that from the workshop. Let's see if we can be able to get it in here, you know, at a point where we can be just more organic with some stuff, you know.
Uou. Então, o que ele comenta é que sobre o processo de criação da coreografia é algo bem orgânico, né? Eles, né, tem os escritores, tem o designer do show, que o pessoal vem com a ideia, né, já se sabe o que se espera, mais ou menos o que você quer. E aí vai todo mundo para uma quadra e começa a trabalhar essas questões, né? Então, o pessoal começa a treinar as frases, treinar alguns movimentos, e que as coisas geralmente acontecem de forma muito orgânica, que às vezes você vai com uma ideia e ali no meio surge outra ideia, então, que é algo bastante orgânico. Mas em um time mais estruturado, você já vem com muita coisa pré-modelada para colocar ali no show. Okay, and how do you know? Oh, okay, so this is good enough. From here, we are not changing. We are not evolving from this choreography. Or, so, what is the point?
What's the point of why do we do that?
No. What is the point where you decide? Okay, there's no change after this. So this is the best we are going to do for this show or for this performance.
I try to buy as much time as possible. It's because then the designers or the artists are always just like keep on adding things and little small things here and there. And of course your schedule gets a little bit more, like you're trying to like clean things. So I'm pretty lucky that we set it up so a lot of the stuff that goes on is correct or the way that we want it. So we keep on pushing it, and then from there, if there's things that need to be reconstructed or messed with, or just to change or enhance a little bit more, then we really already know what that is and pinpoint that. And usually after it's out on the field, we'll already start talking about it and making notes. It'll probably take 2 or 3 days to get to that point. So before we go, okay, that's right. We do a lot of luckily for working with Andy, he pretty much gives you a roadmap because he sees it in his head, and then how it's all orchestrated and coordinated with the core, and make sure we're not like overspinning or so the roadmap is pretty easy for us to get a lot of things done pretty quickly. So we spend all that time being, just workshopping, getting in more information, seeing the drill develop, and then the ideas, and then all of a sudden he'll give me a whole thing of notes, and then we go right at it, And of course, it's a sketch of it, and then we get through it. But we could probably within when we're on a drum corps schedule, you can get through those probably within a week, sometimes
Whoa.
3 days. 3 days, but once once we get all the drill and stuff, we usually are one of the last ones to get the stuff, right? The information or the drill or how it's going to happen, because we want to make sure everything else is lined up, and then we go for it,
Bom, então, o que ele comentou, né? Enfim, eles são, todo mundo que está trabalhando está sempre adicionando informação e colocando coisa nova, e na verdade isso funciona mais ou menos como um brainstorm. Então é muita informação, mas é que eles têm uma ideia geral de onde eles querem chegar, e que geralmente o Color Guard são os últimos a receber informação. Então eles recebem isso, tem aí o máximo uma semana, às vezes, para finalizar. Às vezes ele vai tomando anotações de todo mundo, de tudo que é dito, e no final ele tem aí, às vezes, 3 dias para trabalhar e tudo fica pronto dentro do prazo que eles têm. Não é algo que eles estão habituados. Mas pelo que ele comenta, é algo bastante orgânico e tem muita sinergia entre as áreas. Enfim, o que um diz, os outros vão... o trabalho vai evoluindo ao longo do tempo. Okay, Daniel, I believe we have questions here. Let's see if our viewers have it here before we go to our next topic. Okay. So, okay. So we have a question from Ana Lima. So she's asking about a color guard that is just beginning. So what are your advices to make a good basic work, so to make a good fundamental, to work the fundamentals? What is your advice for a color guard that is just starting?
Right. So it's obviously you don't want to overwhelm them, right? And talking about from how basic it is. I mean, I always try to think about like when a new performer or new student would come into march in high school or in the middle school guard, what do we have to do? And we also have a short amount of time to work with them, sometimes it's a little bit limited. So you just have to be smart, make sure that you give them the basic essentials to start building their foundation, right? So especially if they're new and never done this before, like the movement and understanding coordination, motor skills is so important, right? And then you start to teach them how to do a little bit more of long-term thinking, and then patterns in their bodies of how like the grips are. So, drop spins are most things that people usually start off with. They start teaching the new kids, right? So doing a drop spin is a basic skill, the most basic skill that you would start with. You even break that down even more and do it in halftime or hold 4 counts. It's just like when you're doing music or whatever, you're trying to clean that one note. It's the same thing, and it's a lot of reps and doing it again. So once you build that small foundation, then they can keep growing through there, you know, and you still get a lot from having just a very basic foundation, you know. And pretty soon it just grows and grows, more experience within time, and then they start to see the older ones do it, and then it goes. Yeah.
Bom, então o que ele comenta é que assim, a coisa mais importante é não sobrecarregar, né? Ele falou, porque geralmente você tem pouco tempo, as pessoas realmente estão começando e você precisa ser inteligente. Então, o que você trabalha? Trabalha as habilidades motoras, coordenação, os padrões. E ele citou, né? Ele falou, e trabalha alguns conceitos básicos, como por exemplo, o lançamento, a pegada, os giros. E assim como, né, quando você está estudando uma partitura, ele falou, você tem que repetir isso incontáveis vezes. Porque a cada vez que você repete o movimento, você vai limpando ele. Então, ele falou, você vai trabalhando esses conceitos muito básicos, né? Então, voltando aqui, ó, coordenação, motora, os padrões, né? Pegada, lançamento e giro. Treina isso, né? Incontáveis vezes até que isso fique limpo. E ele falou, e aí, a partir disso, você começa a evoluir. É isso, e tentar buscar a limpeza dos movimentos, né? Foi um dos pontos importantes. Temos mais alguma pergunta? Ok. Okay. So this is about group identity. So you told that yourself that you had a lot of information, but when you started your work, working with Vanguard, you wanted to bring your identity to the work. So yeah. How do you create a group identity? And, you know, when you are among a lot of good jobs, a lot of excellent jobs.
Right. So I think it all depends on, it's in everything that you do, right? So when, like I started off as a weapon technician, you know, from there it's like getting used to, you kind of almost emulate what you have learned, right? But then from there, as you're teaching, you start to learn all these little tricks and trade of how to get more results a lot faster, you know? And then you create your own language. And so equipment technician wise, that's how I think that also helped a little bit too. There's also when I was choreographing, or when I choreograph, I did a lot of emulating myself or whatever, as learning how, like, for my favorite choreographers or whatever. But then the more I started teaching, and the more that I found the way and understood my body, I was able to do and spin and move the equipment around the way I like to see it, you know? And then there's also the visual part of it and the show ideas, you know? So you can be as creative as you want with it, you know?
Yeah, sure. Então, o que ele comenta, né? Em meio a tantos, acho que ele falou assim, tem que trabalhar os fundamentos. Então, a técnica, né? Ele falou, técnica é essencial. Passada a questão técnica, ele falou, você começa a copiar, basicamente, as coisas que você admira. Né? Então, olha, tenta fazer igual, tenta imitar, exatamente. Ele usa a palavra lá, para imitar mesmo, fazer como se fosse outra pessoa. E a partir disso, de acordo com a sua experiência pessoal, você vai seguir um caminho. Tem a questão da linguagem, tem a questão, né, no nosso caso, tem a questão cultural. Então, é muito importante que você, né, trabalhe a técnica junto com as habilidades que você vai aprendendo, emulando, né, copiando outras pessoas, com a questão da linguagem que você quer desenvolver. E, adicionalmente, né, tem a questão visual e a questão do show em si. Mas acho que é um excelente caminho e serve para tudo, né? Para quem é músico, é o mesmo caminho, basicamente. Ok? Temos alguma outra questão?
Can I add something else to that for both of them?
Sure, sure.
So a lot of times, well, going back to teaching a new person, a new kid or whatever, you actually start to, sometimes a lot of people's first thing is want to overwrite, you know, and give too much. Like I said, overwhelming the kids, you know. I find that I had to find that out the hard way. You know, a lot of years of doing that. I'm like, after I started teaching a lot, I was like, okay, what can I do to make them look good? You know, and trying to find quality and keeping it simple, you know, and still being effective will allow them to perform and fulfill things, you know, which will help them gain a bigger base of a foundation there, you know, through performing and excellence, as opposed to just trying to get out what you think has to be hard. And it doesn't need to be hard at all. It's about making them look good, you know, and then building on that. And it also helps you as an instructor to, when you started teaching, to find those ways of how to be effective like that and understand it's okay to be simple, you know, and get the quality out of it, and then really like explore that and then keep growing, and I'll add small little things to it, you know. So I think that's so important. Just watching throughout the years and me going through that myself, is that I felt like I had something to say. You know, I had to prove myself, and you don't have to prove yourself. It's about the kids, right? It's about the kids to be successful at achieving and falling in love with the activity.
Bom, então, olha, o que ele comentou, ele falou antes, uma coisa que é muito importante, ele repetiu, não é para sobrecarregar as crianças, né? O show é com as crianças, é para as crianças. Então, eventualmente, vale a pena começar com algo simples, para que elas se habituem a fazer bem feito. Tem que ficar bom, tem que parecer bonito, tem que parecer bom, e elas têm que se sentir bem. É sobre fazer com excelência e não sobre provar alguma coisa para alguém. Não é sobre isso. Então, começa com o simples, faça bem com excelência. Que, enfim, esse é o objetivo. Ele falou, é para as crianças, não é para o instrutor se provar alguma coisa. Okay, so we have another question from Everton. Okay, how does the coexistence of the members 24/7 affect the perfection of the choreography? How important is to have a good environment?
Oh, I think it's so important. You know, as the more years that I find myself doing this, I find out that, you know, I want to make sure that the performers, the students, are getting their best experience. Is so much that they have to sacrifice, you know, and something that they look forward to. And it's not easy, you know, it's not easy. I mean, you have to not only like you're there to get better at color guard and do the thing or whatever, and be a part of this group, but you also have to, you find out a lot about yourself, you know, and then you have to deal with being around 24/7, you know, on a small bus trying to change, and you're hot and sweaty. Like, you learn how to work with people, and pretty soon, like, if the respect for each other and helping each other out, they start to create this whole team thing and friendships, and you know, pretty soon that starts to create the character or the identity of the color guard as well. You know, like, their personality is so important. So you keep them happy and, you know, work them hard. It's always the best way to do that. You know, not being negative or like focusing on the things that you have to do or whatever. Like, it's about them and their growth. Yeah. So I try to do that. Our whole staff, that's so important to us. You know, we want them to leave the summer having the best experience.
Bom, então, a pergunta do Everton é sobre como a experiência, né, 24/7 lá, todo mundo junto, todos os dias, como isso afeta a performance, como isso afeta o trabalho. E se isso é importante ou relevante para a excelência do trabalho que é realizado. Ele diz que ele falou que isso é fundamental. E parte do trabalho, né, consiste, na verdade, em criar essas conexões, fazer essas amizades, criar um ambiente saudável. E não é sobre o que você tem que fazer, sobre ter que ficar bom, não, é sobre se divertir, é sobre ter a melhor experiência, né? Ele repete isso de novo, não é sobre o resultado, é sobre o processo, né? Isso é para os componentes, isso é para que eles tenham. Ele finaliza dizendo, eles querem que ao final da temporada, os alunos saiam de lá com a sensação de que tiveram a melhor experiência da vida. Então, é sobre isso, é sobre, né, fazer com que eles se sintam bem, e, enfim. e ter uma experiência que agregue na vida. Oh, great!
Yeah.
I think that's what is out the work of a drum corps or a marching band, or it resumes to friendship and to experiences for life, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So
myself, I'm pretty silly, so it's really hard for me to stay focused like that sometimes. But we do make time to let the kids or let them have a good time. You know, like we make games out of doing reps and doing things over and over again and whatever way, just to keep it more mix it up a little bit. You know.
yeah.
And they cheer for each other too. You know, that's the really cool part too.
Então ele falou que tem algumas situações, inclusive, que, né, para tirar um pouco do peso. Que eles, enfim, tem momentos de descontração, onde eles acabam brincando, fazendo jogos e brincadeiras, e que isso faz parte, né? Isso é importante, é necessário. Ok, so let's go to our next topic. So at Santa Clara, how does the audition works? If a guy from, you told about international students, so if a guy from Brazil wanted to get into the color guard at Santa Clara, how does that work?
Yeah, well, so the first thing that they would do is actually they'll create their own personal SCV account, like it's called My ICV, and when they do that, then they'll send them over the materials of the basic things, the skill sets for them to be working on. Then from there we create a social media page that people are interested in doing that, and that's open. So it starts off with a lot of people on it, and then once they get those materials, and then they're really committed to register for a camp, they decided they're going to go to the camp, we put them in another group, and then we start to give small bits and pieces of exercises, stuff that they can work on. So we don't have to spend a lot of time doing that when we get to the camp. We can already kind of make that evaluation a little bit, so see if people really prepare themselves. But international students, like they do the same thing. We give them the same opportunity. And I just had this one from Taiwan. He got to the camp late, and we just learned this really hard flag choreography. And he went in, and within 30 minutes, just watched it, and he understood the flow. And I made him do it by himself, and he got through it the first time. And it was just like, it was so unreal, So it's just how bad you want it and how much the details and stuff. So obviously, like, he watches color guard a lot and practices a lot, So it's really cool.
Então, enfim, falando, né, uma pergunta aqui, como é que você faria se você quisesse entrar no Santa Clara? Ele falou, olha, é muito simples, tem lá um conjunto de habilidades que você tem que ter desenvolvida, e todo ano eles criam lá uma página numa mídia social, uma rede social, e todo mundo, enfim, começa a publicar as coisas lá. Então, todo mundo que está interessado começa a pegar as informações que tem nessa página. E depois, quem realmente decide, né, participar da temporada, se registra e passa para outro grupo mais fechado, onde eles começam a passar alguns exercícios para avaliar. Mas que no final tudo tem lá uma prova, uma audição, que é feita presencialmente. E ele falou que é muito interessante, porque ele deu um exemplo de uma situação de um candidato internacional que chegou e, enfim, viu uma coreografia muito difícil, muito complexa, que ele tinha feito, e que o cara, em 30 minutos, né, voltou com a coreografia perfeita. Então, assim, não tem nenhum outro critério, a não ser a habilidade mesmo da pessoa para participar. Can you tell us something about what kind of exercise, once you get into the camp, how does the work start? So what are the exercises? Is there a specific methodology you use with color guards? So how does the work in the camp go through? Do you use, what about new technology? So how do you use that? How does that work?
Technology? Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of questions. Let's start. Once you are in the camp, what are the exercises you use to start the group together, to level up the techniques, and how do you start the work?
Right. Well, again, it's so important for them to understand their bodies, and then also so I give them a lot of, I give our choreographers a lot of dance time. We'll spend 3 to 4 hours first thing in the morning. I usually let them dance for that long, almost a whole entire block, and then sometimes go back and dance again at night. So that's so important because now we start to unify the way that they approach movement, and the basic idea of that style, that we're teaching, depending on the show, as well. So that's that. And then from there, we start off with equipment exercises. And it's just basically, the way I like to approach it is the skill sets, right? So at this point, the type of performers we get have a pretty wide range of skills. But now it's just like, how can we twist that up for them to start using this more and be comfortable with doing things like simple, same exercises. So we twist that up by adding body to things. And also I try to add, like we do a drop spin exercise, which is the spinning, moving the flags around, but then we do variations of how that goes, right? So it's just not doing the same thing over and over again, but it's understanding different balance of the pole, right? And the different weights and where your hand placements are and levels and pathways and all those things. So all that's incorporated in a 2-minute exercise that I can actually break down that skill and get reps on, So there's like 10 different skills that they'll do in a minute and a half on flag. And then when I want to build up in their endurance, or I want to really like get that skill a lot stronger, we'll just isolate that and enable the way that I designed the warm up, that they're able to do that section repetitively over and over and over again, and then we move on and we let those muscles rest, and then we work on another section the next day,
Então, o que ele comentou, ele falou, olha, a primeira coisa que eles fazem quando chegam lá é dança. Então, eles fazem 4 horas de dança no início, né? Eles podem fazer assim, até 4 horas de dança de manhã, descansar e voltar de novo à tarde para mais dança. E que isso depende do show e depende do tipo de repertório que eles vão fazer, depende, enfim. Mas que isso é muito importante para que todos estejam alinhados em relação ao tipo de movimento que se espera. Então, essa é a primeira coisa que eles fazem. Segundo, ele falou, quando a pessoa chega lá, ela já tem, né, uma gama muito grande de habilidades, de skills, enfim, e que ele começa a trabalhar nos detalhes. Então, ele pega um movimento, por exemplo, cria lá exercícios de 2 minutos, onde ele trabalha os fundamentos, e ele repete, né, várias vezes o mesmo movimento, até que a pessoa entenda as diferenças, por exemplo, de equilíbrio do bastão, de movimento da mão, treinar resistência. Então ele faz o mesmo exercício inúmeras vezes, repetindo, até que fique da forma como ele espera que fique. Enfim, e aí ele vai trabalhando isso. Na próxima semana, na semana seguinte, ele trabalha um novo conjunto de habilidades e de skills, enfim, de características que ele precisa nos componentes. And, we are so the second part of the first question, we're very technological, and we have a lot of technology available. What do you believe the question actually is there some technology you use when preparing this first stage of the some software or some what kind of technology you believe is useful?
Using I do a lot of recording of videos, and obviously we have our own page, so pretty much the work that we go throughout the day, like important exercises, like when they go to bed, like I'll post those videos so they can kind of like see themselves do it, and kind of give themselves little mental notes or whatever that, oh, I look terrible, I didn't work on that part, or just things like that. So video is a lot, works a lot. I use that a lot. And then obviously I think it's just the kids studying and using that as the tool, and also for us, for designers, is we're able to look at it, and study it, so we have a plan ready to go for the next day.
Então, uma coisa que ele comentou, né, tem dos dispositivos de tecnologia que ele usa é o vídeo. Então, ele grava bastante para poder assistir depois e avaliar, enfim, onde tem que mudar, o que precisa fazer. E que isso é muito... Enfim, os alunos já estão habituados com isso e já trabalham essa questão de forma mais... enfim, mais habitual, mais orgânica. Yeah, and what about those, I don't know, video conferencing and do you use any software? No, a week ago we talked about software to make the drills and the performance. So do you have any technological apparatus that give you?
Well, the whole drum corps uses the UDB app, right?
Okay.
So that has the animation on that. Plus, also we get the animation of the drill from the drill writer, Michael Gaines, pretty much, and then from there we get the notes with them. So that's pretty much it. It's just the roadmap for us and looking at pathways, which has been really incredible tool. Especially when you're doing drills, you're looking at pathways and you can zoom in and check that out, where they are, your body facing is going to be on this point by the time you get to here, and, very effective.
Então, eu perguntei sobre outras ferramentas, né, de tecnologia e o que mais que ele poderia usar. Ele falou que tem o software, enfim, o DB App, que eles usam para... Enfim, eles recebem o drill já montado, e aí ele consegue, por exemplo, ver a evolução e dar um zoom e ver qual a posição que a pessoa deveria estar olhando naquele momento. Enfim, isso todas as bandas usam e que isso é um grande diferencial para as entidades. Okay, great. So, what about these times of the COVID-19 and coronavirus? Everybody is at home. Are you doing any kind of work with the guys, or everything's closed? How's that working?
Yeah, so it was the thing when we found out that the March camp was canceled. This was actually March camp was canceled for the drum corps, but at that point, Color Guard are still doing Winter Guard at that point because WGI championships are in April. So we don't see them until April. Like, I see all the first time we audition is in November and December, and then I don't see them again until late April. So we were all getting excited that, there might be hope that we'll be able to go on, So when we found out that DCI was not going to happen, the first thing I thought of was like, okay, now that, that Zoom is popular, like, how can we do this? So we ended up setting up a 3-day camp on the camp day before the April camp that we were supposed to have. So it started off with a Friday night dance class with one of our choreographers. They did about 2.5 hours, 3 hours. And then they learned, I think that the next day we did a flag block. We did another dance class in the morning. And then we did flag technique. And that was interesting because it was a whole other thing. Like, you have to tell them to come to the screen, so someone can demonstrate or whatever and talk about it. We can give them the information, and then we send them out and they go and work on the skill, So it was important. It's obviously different. But yeah, we were able to kind of do that. And once we got into it, it was really cool watching the teachers be able to, you could start to feel their passion and performance through the way that they were teaching through the screen, just because they wanted to fix it, So yeah, I thought it ended up being a really cool thing, and the kids really got into it and really appreciated it, I thought. And then we ended up our last day with just talking to them, and I brought in some designers and stuff, and an alumni that was there for the first year of Vanguard, and we just had a question and answer session. So it was just kind of like hey, we'll check this out, and we'll do the best we can in learning, because you have to deal with people that didn't have equipment, and you have to deal with the weather and all that stuff. We just made the best of it.
Yes. So, então o que ele comentou foi que nesse tempo de pandemia, né, os circuitos maiores foram cancelados. Esse ano não vai ter bastante coisa, mas que eles estão trabalhando, né, com a expectativa aí de que já tenha atividades, as atividades retornando ao normal. Agora, o que ele comentou é muito interessante. Ele fez lá um acampamento de online. E as pessoas vinham, né? E ele fez lá, ensinou técnica e tal. E que ele falou, era muito interessante. As pessoas vêm, assistem a aula, né, mostra na tela como fazer as coisas, e as pessoas vão treinar e depois voltam para mostrar o resultado. E que no último dia ele trouxe, enfim, palestrantes, né? O pessoal que desenha os shows, que escreve as ideias, e enfim. E é uma nova forma de fazer, né? Um acampamento mais reduzido, focado, mas que acabou funcionando. De qualquer forma, funcionou super bem. Ok.
I can go on with that just a little bit more, just so what we're doing now. We're still in contact with the performers. We honored their contracts for the ones that wanted to continue, and then we also, that was when our callback audition camp was supposed to be. So if they wanted to keep their status as a callback, they're in our color guard group or whatever. And every month we do a project. So we also have Zoom classes and different classes, and then the performers were able to do their whatever they wanted to do. Someone did some fitness stuff, and some people did a cooking class, and someone did a t-shirt, and then somebody wrote a rifle-like piece. So we gave them those opportunities. But we have great staff that was able to volunteer their time and give to our students and do classes with them. The most recent one we did with them was their acting performance coach, Wayne Harris, and that was really cool to see because it's because you don't hear a lot of times the kids are on mute. He was able to make it very interactive, had everyone's mics on and just doing silly things and making them turn off their mics, and then he would ask someone a question and they would have to turn on their mics, so just trying to create and make it more interactive. Then we put them in breakout rooms where they got to work with people they didn't know yet, so the last project we did was actually I told him, I said, I don't want to sit and watch you do technique. I want you to design like a show, and you have to use Vanguard music, something that they played before, but it could be any version of it, So they end up making mini videos, like concept videos, and they only had to spend just a little bit if they wanted to, and they also had a certain kind of requirements behind it. But it was really cool just to see how creative they were, and the editing and using effect of visual stuff. Technology-wise, and it was really cool to see their own personality and say something through that,
Yeah. Então, ele comentou que outro projeto que ele está fazendo, né? O pessoal que está participando, ele faz projetos mensais ele falou, ele tem que honrar os contratos, né? Então, lá, o pessoal que quis continuar, que não quis cancelar, ele está fazendo atividades mensais com esse pessoal. E surgindo vários projetos diferentes. Alguns são de dança, mas ele falou, tem gente que está ensinando a cozinhar, tem gente que está ensinando, e isso acaba gerando uma interação diferente do que eles estão habituados. Ele falou que um dos últimos projetos que ele fez, por exemplo, foi o pessoal tinha que fazer mini vídeos, e ao invés de fazer um trabalho de dança, eles faziam um trabalho de criação mesmo. Então fazia um mini vídeo, tinha lá alguns requisitos, mas era livre. Ele falou, cara, surgiu muita coisa conceitual, muita coisa diferente. Interessante para ver como o pessoal pode ser criativo, né? Mesmo trabalhando totalmente aí fora da área de conforto e tal, que o resultado foi muito, muito interessante mesmo. Então fica aí dicas de trabalho em tempos de pandemia, isolamento e tudo mais. Ok. So, we are going to our final question here. So, Ana Lima. An excellent question. So you told about your background. You did arts, theater, and performing, and you are also a musician. And this is the kind of question. So He asks about the artistic and human formation fundamentals of the integrants of the Drum Corps of our color guard. And in your opinion, so I believe this is there are two questions in this question. So first, what about the artistic and human formation of the participants of a group? What do you think about that?
I'm sorry, just their artistic, like their style, or
No, yes, about an overall background. Right? She says human here. I mean, what about general knowledge of other areas not related to?
oh yes, okay, I can see where you're going with that. Yeah, it's some years we have people with extra other talents, and like we kind of when the audition part, or I get a message from the design team like, hey, we're looking for this. If you find any extra talent that has or that you come along the way, or these people, that we do that kind of a search as well. But some places their backgrounds come from more of a movement-based thing. Some backgrounds come from more of being fast spinners. Some of them come for more dramatic, whatever. It all depends on, I really look for being able to adapt, and learn different things and try to find that new style. Or so it really doesn't matter. I think what your background is, as long as you kind of have that mindset that you the way that you try to approach learning new things. I think does that answer the question a little bit?
Yes, yes. There's two parts of this question. Let's just translate. So, então o que ele falou, né? Que a primeira parte é sobre as características, né? Artísticas e humanas, que o lance é adaptar, que as pessoas chegam com habilidades de todos os tipos, e o que ele faz é adaptar. Então, tem gente que vem de uma veia mais artística, outros de uma veia mais desportiva, e que ele acaba adaptando tudo isso dentro de um trabalho. É basicamente o que ele disse, tirando o melhor de cada um. So, now the second part of the question. What is the role of the director of the group or the staff in the formation of the companies, the staff? You as a teacher, what is your role in the formation of a yes?
Well, it depends. For Santa Clara, I'm obviously the manager, the one that keeps track of all the performers from the right out the gate, from the first audition, through, because we do 5 auditions throughout the season or whatever, and then we also do video auditions. So I manage all those performers and try to keep track of them. And obviously we have a system of how that works for each audition, and then it is keeping tabs of them on the off season. And then when I get to on top of that, now it's getting information from the design team about the direction that they're going, and now we're looking at we can now give information to our designer or to our choreographers, and what that they need to start thinking about, and kind of just giving a little bit more information for them so they can start wrapping their mind around that. We get to that final audition in April, which is super hard usually, because we end up being sometimes like 70 to 90 kids that come to the last one, and we have to knock it down to 36 or 40 kids, and so it's a lot to work with. So once we've decided that, then I have to keep on track of them till we get to move-ins, and from there it's I create the daily schedule of there's a base of this, who has what field and what are we going to focus on tomorrow as a team, for the design part of it. And then what are we going to do in our sections? So we talk about all those things, from their dance class to the technique class to workshopping to learning drill and who's teaching the drill. And I manage also the staff and who needs to be where all the time and what sections they're going to be working with. And on top of that, like we have 12 people on the guard staff, but we only have 5 on the road usually. So I have to manage the work schedule of when they're flying in and flying out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Então, olha só, então.
And on top of that, yeah,
that's intense.
Yeah.
Man, you have a lot of work to do. It's very intense. Ana, respondendo a sua pergunta, né, segunda parte. Então, o que ele falou? Que ele, pessoalmente, né, gerencia essa parte. Então, o que ele nota? Eles fazem 5 audições e eles vão avaliando o que precisa melhorar em cada um dos componentes. Ele falou, eles começam as audições com cerca de 70 candidatos e termina com entre 36 e 40 pessoas. Então, eles vão dando dicas e vão trabalhando o que eles acham que cada um precisa trabalhar, né? E uma vez que essas pessoas, né, fazem parte do grupo, ele tem uma equipe que trabalha isso. Então, tem gente que trabalha técnica, tem gente que trabalha dança, tem gente que trabalha questão mais artística, e que ele, né, precisa direcionar os participantes para onde eles precisam estar. Então, o cara que precisa trabalhar mais técnica vai para o workshop de técnica, o outro vai trabalhar as questões físicas, enfim. Cada um vai acabar desenvolvendo, e que ele é responsável, sim, por desenvolver, né, o que cada um precisa para que o show fique lá. Nossa, parece bem intenso e é interessante. Ele falou, tem uma equipe para tratar dessas questões. Hey, I think we have another question here.
Bruno.
Yeah, our friend Bruno. So he wants to know what are your main influences. Okay, so what are the influence of the work you did in Blast on the groups you work today? You work nowadays. So what did you bring from Blast to the work you do today with the groups?
Well, from Blast when I was performing, I don't know. I think it's more of a realization of that was the highest point of my performing time. You know, reaching that point of a level that I never thought that I would get to. You know, and then just seeing and start to feel those things in my growth and understand what that was and how much I grew, whatever. Along with the experiences of teaching, and I just think that it was a good blend of. I remember what it's like to be a performer and what they go through, because I did that on my own. Like we call it losing your release. I kind of like forgot how to throw my saber. I was chucking it across the stage, you know, like, and it's just all this whole thing. And I think that it was just like once you learn how to release that your mind and be free and not like hold yourself back or put yourself down. That's where you're able to just to grow and just keep going, you know? So I try to instill that in the daily teachings, you know, making that connection. And hey, I know where everyone's at, their level that they're at, and the things that they need to work on, you know? So they don't feel like they're plateauing, and sometimes they do, you know? And you just say, okay, well, this is what you need to do. This is how sometimes I approached it, you know? So I think that I would say be the biggest thing.
Bom, então ele comentou que o Blast foi o ponto mais alto de performance dele, né? Foi o lugar onde ele performou no mais alto nível. Então, que uma das coisas que é muito interessante para ele é depois que ele saiu de lá, ele falou, pô, enquanto eu estava lá, eu jogava o sabre de um lado para outro do palco, né? E isso era natural. Então ele precisa, é interessante que você amadurece ao deixar isso para trás, né, esse nível de performance, e falar, não, tudo bem, hoje eu não vou mais fazer isso, né, mas olhando, quando ele conseguiu fazer a conexão de tudo que ele fazia lá com a atividade de professor dele, enfim, aí ele consegue olhar para um aluno e falar exatamente o que precisa melhorar, né, ó, você está nesse ponto, e para você fazer o que você quer, você precisa trabalhar essas questões. Então, é bem, no caso, ele chegou onde poderia chegar, né, como performance, agora ele consegue transmitir isso para frente. Let me see if you have anything else here. I don't believe. So, our closing time. If you have to give some advice to people that are starting or to guard director, What would you say to somebody that is start or somebody that is on the road for some time? So, what will you leave to us?
Well, I think if you're wanting to be in drum corps, I think that it's definitely something you should definitely go for. You know, I think that it has been the biggest impact of my life and has has been a big impact on how I've approached my life. You know, and the things that I've learned from just learning the skills or being in the activity and teaching. So you have a passion for something. Don't think that you can't do it. Go for it. You should definitely try to you know, it's the biggest thing is like you're gonna be scared that you're not going to make it or whatever, but it's about the experience, you know, and you can grow from that, you know. So it's really hard to tell a kid that you're not gonna make it or whatever, but I think it's so brave and way cool if you're actually to go and try, because from there you start to see, oh wow, I want to be like that. So you know, you get inspired by watching other people, and I do, even if it's just one audition camp that you get to go and participate in. We make it a great experience, you know, and you'll start to feel that growth within just those 3 days, you know, that you go to the camp. So I would say just keep, just tell yourself that you can do it and go for it, and whatever happens, happens. But you will learn something from it, which is so important. You know, never stop learning, never stop listening. Take all the advice that you can. What else can I say? Now that there's a lot of virtual classes going on and a lot of free color guard classes, you should really take those as well. You know, take advantage of that. You know.
Bom, então, assim, o que ele disse, falou assim, meu, se você quer participar, se você gosta, vai atrás, não desiste. Então, mesmo quando você participa, né, no caso deles, de uma audição e não é aprovado, ainda assim é uma grande experiência, ainda assim vale a pena, que você sempre aprende, que você... E uma coisa muito importante que ele disse, muito importante, participe pela experiência, né, não pelo resultado. Você vai crescer, né, vá pela experiência. Não deixe de fazer porque você acha que você vai conseguir ou porque você acha que não vai dar certo. Faça. Né, faça pela experiência. Ele falou, ó, tem um monte de aula online acontecendo, tem um monte de... Então, vá fazer, vá atrás, procure. Enfim, tem muita coisa disponível para a gente fazer. What about teachers? What would you say to teachers that are...
Right. You know, it's again, it's the same thing. Always just be aware, you know, always listen, always you can always take something from someone, you know. You can also learn from your time at teaching, even one block. Like I always ask myself, what could have been better? What could we have done better as a staff? You know, what could we have done better to help guide the team? You know, those things that you're always like just trying to make yourself better, but being aware, listening, and taking things from other people, this is only going to make you grow, you know, help you grow. And then from there, you're gonna choose to listen or take things or not. But it also, you start to find yourself a little bit more. You know, it's I would say keep encouraging and believing in your students. It's so important. Checking up on them, making sure that they you see the growth and you see the progress that they're making, even though they may not be feeling that. Help them think about the different ways to think about something that they're struggling with, you know, because everyone's gone through that, ups and downs and stuff, and you know, they're not the last ones and they're not the first ones to go through it, you know. But for instructors, it's so important to make sure you're just taking care of your students and just keep on trying to grow yourself.
Yeah, sure. That's fundamental. Okay, então o que ele falou, né? Vou começar pelo final que ele falou. Você que é professor, tenha certeza de que você está tomando conta dos alunos, que você está cuidando dos alunos. Né, as pessoas têm, cada um tem lá o seu problema, tem sua situação pessoal, então tenha certeza de que você está ajudando as pessoas a crescerem. Esse é o principal objetivo. E ele fala, ouça muito, professor, ouça bastante, aprenda sempre, seja de olhos abertos, ouvidos abertos, tem muita coisa acontecendo. E lembra, o seu objetivo é fazer com que os seus alunos cresçam, né? Então não é sobre fazer ganhar, enfim, na nossa realidade, né? Ganhar um concurso ou ganhar um título, é sobre fazer com que todos evoluam, com que todos cresçam. Lembra de como ele terminou, você tem que cuidar dos seus alunos, isso é muito importante. Legal. Okay, sir, I believe we are going to our final moment here, Daniel. I'd like to thank you very much for this opportunity to have you here. As I said before, it's very inspirational. And listening to you talk with such caring for the students and for their well-being and for their growth, that's very inspirational. I believe as a teacher, you have touched our hearts in the most sensible way. I'd like to thank you very much.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, we all learn from each other, and I thank you for inviting me for this. I love talking about this kind of stuff. I'm glad I was able to help in any way, but I think that what you guys are doing is fantastic. To help spread the education and to inspire others about the experience. The more the bigger we can make this, the more inclusive this is, the more exciting this is going to be, and can lead to new things. So I really do appreciate that, and keep on doing what you're doing. This is fantastic.
Thank you very much. It's an honor for us to have you here. Really. Thank you. E, gente, então foi que, enfim, ele gostou de ter participado, de ter convidado, que, enfim, o quanto mais inclusivo a gente fizer isso, né, melhor para todos. E muitas coisas boas vão surgir dessa, do projeto, da iniciativa de espalhar o conhecimento, de compartilhar o conhecimento. Pessoal, quero agradecer você que esteve com a gente, né, nessa noite. Quero agradecer aos nossos parceiros, colaboradores dos Estados Unidos, Colômbia, Brasil, todo o nosso time do MXP. Quero agradecer também ao pessoal da Liga Brasileira de Bandas e Fanfarras, Aula Virtual de Música da Espanha, Foi Estúdio, Brasil Bandas, Portal Brasil Sonoro, Toque 2, Unibandas TV, Canal Banda Show e Thiago Blumen Music. É isso, pessoal. Se inscrevam lá no nosso canal e até a próxima live. Okay. Thanks, Daniel. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Marching experience.